This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Everyone is a potential customer if they have a good experience with your dealership, either in person or online, which is why training is so important. I know you've heard me say that here before, but I truly believe this. Here to talk to us about training today is Tony Gomez, who's the president of Quantum 5. This is a company you guys have been hearing a lot about here in the last 4 or 5 years. They've been doing great work with dealers all over the country. So Tony, thank you so much for coming into the studio and sharing some time with us.
Certainly, it's my pleasure. Excited to be here.
Great. So talk to us a little bit about Quantum 5, is in the training space. Your CEO, Dave O'Brien, has been in just a few months ago to talk to us about that. And from your lens, what sets you apart from some of the other trainers or training companies that are out there?
Yeah, so much, Jim, and I love to talk about this, but I would say at its very core, it was our ability to really listen in the early days of starting up Quantum 5. So we're really good listeners. We had, despite the fact that we have over a couple centuries of automotive experience and influence our company, often when you see companies like that, they have a tendency to lead the discussion with what they think, and our ability to remain curious as a company and be out there asking dealers the questions that are most important. What challenges are you seeing in your service drives and your showrooms all across the country? We really paid attention in that moment, and we really focused on identifying what they were struggling with and bringing really meaningful and timely solutions to the market. So that's one of the things that really, is one of the key differentiators about us. We were able to listen and create some really meaningful solutions. And those solutions come in the form of our curriculum and our content. One of the things that differentiates us, Jim, is our content and curriculum, we're calling out the elephant in the room. We're having the discussion, the taboo discussion about customer experience. And being in the automotive retail space for almost 4 decades myself, I always knew from the very early days, Jim, I knew that what I was doing and being taught didn't quite feel right. You know what I mean? It was just
I've been there myself.
Yeah, I mean, but guess what? And I went decades like that. And the reality is what I learned by kind of watching the industry from a 30,000-foot view is that we've done that because A, nobody's shown us a better way, and B, nobody was holding us to a higher standard. Nobody was raising the bar for us. So we continued to do what we'd always done, and we lived with the fact that they were saying that going to buy a car was analogous to going to the dentist, and getting a root canal, and we just all kind of accepted that reality. And the crazy thing is, once you started to see some of these modern retailers, like your digital retailers, Carvanas of the world, and they start to enter into the marketplace, at first we were nervous, but then we started to realize, they've only got 2% of the share, or this, that, and the other. It'll pass, or it'll blow over. But I tell you, I was having a discussion with Dave O'Brien, who you know well, our CEO and co-founder of Quantum, and he said something really profound the other day that really stuck and resonated with me. And he said, Tony, the competition that our clients and our dealers need to be worrying about is not those digital retailing new open startups. It's the guy down the street. Their competition who figured out early on that, hey, things are changing and I have to change with it. And I have to figure out, how do I reduce the customer effort involved in buying a car? So we're focused on the wrong potential, person that's going to really challenge our business in the future. And that's our competition, those people who are first to the turn. So we figured that piece out. And then after figuring that out, we needed to figure out the number one pain point that most dealers shared with us. And what it was, Jim, is that, hey, we're struggling to find good people. We can't keep them. They won't adhere to our selling process. You know what I mean? And even if they do, and I come in and train them, I can't get them to sustain. I can't get those behaviors to get any real traction in my company. And the one thing we look at now in hindsight being 2020, is you look and you say, wow, we can't know. Everybody's got the same problem. They can't hire good people. What's the common denominator in all of this? What's the odds that just none of us...
Maybe the dealer and the training.
What's the odds that none of us can find somebody who can execute against it? And that doesn't shock us, because this brings the second big differentiator about us, which is our curriculum, because it doesn't shock me that you can't find good people and you can't get them to execute against your process, because the process for decades now, Jim, as you know, is anchored in conflict.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it really is.
From the time they say hello.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I always say, when I was learning it, it's not a shock that they're not adhering to the process, because it's not natural for them. And so what we've done at Quantum is we've created a process and a content and a curriculum that allows that salesperson or that service advisor to meet that customer where they're at in the selling process and advocate for them to buy a car or purchase a service or a part. So we help them get arrive at that outcome. And that's what becomes really, really meaningful to the clients. That's long-term sustainable change that delivers what we call recurring success.
That's right.
So I always say, I think we sell a car and we think, hey, what I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
We consider success when selling a car is, do they come back and do it again and again?
That's exactly
for the entire life cycle of that consumer.
That's right.
And if you can't get them to do that, the days of saying, hey, there's a lot of people in this city and I got a ways to go before I make them all mad.
That's not going to work.
It really isn't.
It's not going to work.
And so once we figured out that message, Jim, then we needed to figure out, how do you solve the sustainable piece?
Yeah.
Well, we realized, we've got to figure out, dealers can't afford to continue to bring people back every 6 months, write that big check to have somebody motivate their teams to perform, because as soon as they leave, the reality is if they don't...
There goes the sales training.
Yeah, if they don't have that muscle memory, that repetitive, training that's keeping that top of mind, they get a binder, but we shove that in the credenza, or stick it in a drawer, and then we never see it again. And so what we did is we thought, let's bring learning to where the learner's at.
That's right.
This is where they're at, Jim.
That's exactly
This is where I say the learner, all of us are, isn't it today?
I
said, I've never seen something more than a smart device that transcends generations. My mother used this, with as much effectiveness and efficiency as I did.
Sure.
So we knew we needed to figure out how to give somebody a learning experience that they can access when they want, where they want, how they want.
That's great.
So
That's
we
fantastic.
have training doesn't take place like a normal. And I say, Jim, we've been in enough automotive showrooms to know, that a lot of times when you do have training that's offered, whether it's virtual, that they can log in and realize, like instructor-led training, like a lot of the stuff we did, or even if it's videos, and we kind of gravitate away from that static learning experience of sticking somebody in a room and having them watch videos.
Yeah, that's tough. That's brutal. It's almost like a sentence. It's like you've been sentenced to go in there, and then of course, as soon as they sell a few cars, what do? The manager says, you don't have to do the training anymore. You've hit 12 cars a month. Or
you are certified.
That's exactly right.
And to add insult to injury, what do, Jim? We turn around and we have them shadow somebody.
That's that's been screwing up for the last 5 years.
Either. And so, we've been able to figure that out along the way, that we've got to give them training where they want, when they want it.
That's right.
And then we combine it with community people. We always say that, we've got a saying that technology in and of itself is worthless, but use gives it value. And so we don't want to just give them technology. We want to give them technology and tether it to a coach. So at Quantum 5, we have coaches that are around the clock, that are serving our clients each and every day with personal coaching items they need in and outside of the learning space.
That's fantastic.
And that's the differentiator with us.
That's a huge differentiator.
It really
I
is.
mean, you're talking about dealers that are so used to, and I did this with my sales team because we didn't have technology like this, or Quantum 5 at the time, but it was, to your point, you'd put them in a room, either it was VHS tapes, and I know I'm dating myself now, or, of course, as it came along, it would be more online learning and what have you, which is, if it works for you dealers out there, keep doing it, okay? But for the people that have not found the importance, or I should say an effective training program, which are thousands of dealers. I talk to them all the time. The turnover rate is still north of 70% in terms of sales. The culture in these dealerships are sometimes painful to listen to from the point of view of the salesperson or the managers. They're constantly looking for new people. And to your point, I want to get back to earlier when you said about the people that buy a car from a dealership. Just because you sell 200 cars to your customers doesn't mean 200 are coming back.
Exactly.
Okay, you could have 150 that go, I bought a car there, I'm never buying a car there again, right? But the dealer and the team think, we have 200 happy customers. No, you don't. You just delivered, you just maybe forced 200 people to buy a car this month, right?
And we've gotten away with that for decades because of the fact that nobody's held us to a higher standard.
That's right.
But what we're seeing with consolidation in the industry and the level of sophisticated leadership and management groups that are out there today, you're starting to realize that people are, we use a term within our company, winter's coming.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're seeing that, and they're making the necessary changes, and that's why I say I think it's upon us now that everybody realizes, okay, we got to do this different.
Yeah.
But the secret sauce is, can you show me a way? Why don't we change fear, Jim? We're afraid that we had this winning formula, and gosh, the last 3 years didn't do us any good in helping us to mentally prepare for change, because we've successfully, often successfully been challenged or even failed to the tunes of millions and millions of dollars.
That's right.
And so, it's a challenge, but it's very timely right now.
There's no question about it. I talk to dealers all over the country, as you know, every single week, and they are concerned. They're concerned that now the lots are filling back up with inventory, and it's not the way it was in the last 3 years. They're now starting to get those customers that are coming back in the showroom 3 years ago that bought in 2020 that go, how much are you going to give me for that car, for that trade-in that I bought from you for plus sticker price? Right. Well, now it's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So that takes a very talented salesperson just to overcome the trade situation, let alone sell the new car at now with an average price of almost $50,000 on new, $36,000 on used. This is a new ball game.
Tack on that 8-9% rate and the payments.
It's exactly right. So it's going to require a much different strategy as it relates to training salespeople, which are a few 100,000 in this industry. And when you talk to a lot of people that have left the industry on an exit situation, and we've spoken to a few of them, they'll tell you, I didn't feel supported. Well, dive down a little bit on that question. What do you mean you didn't feel supported? I wasn't given the proper training to succeed at that dealership. And that is a crying shame, because that should be one of the easiest things the dealer principal and their staff should be able to provide, right? Is that necessary ongoing professional training.
And to listen to you say that, it's so important, because one of the things that we realize is we can't tell them, because as far as a client, a potential prospect is concerned, thinking of bringing on Quantum 5 services, ultimately you think there's an agenda. So, so we don't dictate, we don't tell, we don't say what we feel.
Right.
What we do is, early on when you onboard with Quantum, is we do what we call a ESIQ, or an employee survey within their company, and then
that's a good
and we look at job loyalty, employee satisfaction, leadership feedback. We take all of this information that's the voice of their own people, and the very first step of our onboarding process is we give them that feedback. And we help usher them through that. And tell you, Jim, that's a tough meeting.
It's amazing you get through the whole meeting.
Yeah, but it's moments like that where you really love the industry we work for, because David O'Brien, our CEO, says this often as well, is that we've never met a more resilient group of people and auto dealers that find a way to win.
That's right.
And they will rise to this challenge.
They'll
embrace change. They'll find a way to win. And I see it each and every day when I share that level of information and the level of humility that you see in car dealers. They want to have a great customer experience. They do. And a great customer experience starts with that employee experience.
And what starts with that employee is the proper ongoing training. This is not a one and done. A friend of mine that was a sales trainer said, when these people come in and they do like a one and done, okay, here's the sales training for a couple of days, boom, 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 you are now anointed, to your point, you're now a salesperson or a manager, is much like sending somebody to an NFL game and saying, okay, now you're a quarterback. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I just watched the game. That's all I did. So the key is to have it in the palm of your hand. It's a great technology. I've spoken to a number of your clients in anticipation of today's interview. They all give it a thumbs up. We're talking about the smaller dealer on the corner that has 1 or 2 stores. That's tough enough for them today. And we're also talking about the groups that have got 60 dealerships in them.
Yes.
So, and that's kind of what's really cool about your company. It's why we love bringing you in here, is you've got something for everyone so they can play on a level playing field, right? And that's really the key.
Each and every learning journey, Jim, is a personal, individual learning journey, and it's one of the other key differentiators with Quantum is that I can't take everybody on the same trip, the same journey, because we're all in different places. You have the tenured salespeople, you have beginner and novice salespeople that are first starting out, and those intermediary. And the reality is, what we do with that personal coaching community that's tagged and tethered to that technology and that learner is we're constantly talking with them, and we're identifying, and they get what's nice about the personal community space is they have a chance to actually interact with somebody outside of leadership. Because if you're the general manager in the store or the dealer, and I've got an issue or a challenge, I don't know that I'm willing to get that vulnerable in front of you, Jim. You know what I mean? Share that with you. What will you think of me? Will I think I'm not as far along as I should? These personal coaches have that that personal space where that's interaction just between the personal coach and the learners, and we share that with our clients. That's a sacred space. We can't betray that trust, because as soon as we do, that disconnects that relationship that's so critical to personal development.
There's no question about it. I can see it. I'm putting my salesman hat on from years ago, and we got in the business around the same time, and it's very intimidating, especially to new people coming into the industry, and there's new people coming in all the time. Who wants to turn around to their sales manager? I couldn't close that deal because I didn't have the necessary training or skill set or whatever. Nobody. You just assume run down the road rather than, be beaten on by your sales manager because you didn't have the necessary tools in your toolkit to close that deal, right?
Very true.
There's no question about it. And now, as we see, as I said earlier, with these cars coming back on, and dealers, you've heard me talk about this before. That's why we love bringing companies like this in that provide solutions to you. We've heard a lot from dealers out there that have said, hey, this is a different ball game today than it was just last year. It was just last year. And it's changing very, very quickly. We need to come up with something that's going to train our people in an effective way. And so this is really brought on by you. We want to be bringing you those solutions here at CBT News, because this is a real problem. And by the way, top story of the day, it's not going away. Okay, it's only actually, for some stores, it's only getting worse. Okay, not better. And for those dealers out there that think they're gonna, the old adage, well, if I need 2 people, I'm gonna hire 6 or 8 or 10, and it's gonna boil down to 2. Are you kidding me? This is 2023. How about you hire 10 and keep 9? Maybe one didn't make it, but it's all boils down to having the necessary training. And by the way, I've got some very good friends, as you all know, and that they're on the show all the time, from Sonic Automotive and AutoNation and Asbury and Lithia. Guess what they have and they talk about? Their training departments, okay? Because they believe so much in this that they've got a full training department with maybe 100 people out there. So if you want to be competing with these big boys out there, and really you have to today, right? You got to have something like this in your toolkit. And it's
tough to do on your own. And the reality is
it's almost impossible.
It really is, because I didn't know myself coming out of the retail sector into the software and learning and development space. I didn't know myself what was involved in creating the content and curriculum. I mean, I've got guys that are, have masters in adult learning and curriculum design, instructional design and development. And when I see what goes into building this, I think to myself, because I had a trainer for my group, you know what I mean? And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what good looked like. I didn't know how to measure them. And then, of course, it goes into the, not just what they learn, but how they learn and how it flows, and how do you take some of that longer form content that lives in the training room and turn it into short form content for sustainable learning, that they can continue to stay engaged in the product. And so it's a very complex process, and that's why I say partner with someone. It could be anyone. It doesn't have to be Quantum, but you got to partner with someone today so that you can take it that next level.
Let me ask you this crazy question. I was in the I started a marketing business 20 years ago that today, I sold the company to my son, and my son runs that company, and it's a huge marketing company. It always blows me away that when we would sit in front of a dealer and we would say, how much do you spend, what's your budget on advertising, okay? I rattle off, $125,000 a month, 125, no big deal, right? Okay, $125,000, and they'd spend it in every place, digital and radio and billboards or whatever the case might be. And I would say, because I'm a smartass, I would say, how much do you spend in training for your 15 people? And they would look at you cross-eyed, right? And they go, wow, what do you mean training? In fact, it was uncomfortable, right? Well, you spend $125,000 to get that new person in the door in hopes to sell them a car. How much do you spend on training your 15 or 20 people? What is that? How much is that budget? Okay, more times than not, the budget is nothing. Okay. How do you not have a problem with that?
And I think where it stems from is we have one of those few industries that I say we have to be cognizant and aware of the fact that it's unlike, if you draw an analogy to a football team, for example, Jim, they practice all week long.
Yes.
They study the plays and everything, and they gear up for 4 hours or 3 hours on a Sunday.
Right.
And I said, the difference with the auto industry is we play every waking moment of the day. So our ability to call a timeout, we're so, we're so consumed by, by the flow of business and everything that we haven't yet disciplined ourselves. And because of the fact that somehow, despite not always offering a consumer experience that's reflective of what they want, we're succeeding.
That's right.
But we're seeing what a challenge that is. And the other thing is this, Jim, is those that have realized, okay, we need to take that time out. We need to plan and do a strategy. It's worth it. If we pull people off the floor to do that, well, then you have conflict because of how you're paying them. Because, you're paying me, you're not paying me to be in the training room, you're paying me to be on the floor selling cars. And so we create some of our own internal conflict. But ultimately, what they've realized is that, okay, we pull them all in a training room, and then we have Sarah or Bob or John, the desking manager, that's mastered the art of desking, be the trainer. But they're two different things, Jim.
100%.
I can't train. That's an art form that you need to be taught.
It's not even close.
No, it's really not. Yeah. And so that's why I think they're coming to the realization is we need a turnkey part. We need someone to do it for us. We can't task the dealer with doing that. We have great sales managers, great general managers, leaders that are running their companies very effectively today. But this is not what's in their wheelhouse. And so it's okay to partner and pass that baton and have someone do that for you, and then have someone, most importantly, sustain the effort.
That's right. That's right. It's funny, training and at the end of the day, it's going to sell you more. It's going to sell you more cars, without a doubt. There's not a dealer out there that doesn't disagree with that statement. It's going to make you more. So even if you're saying, well, we're flying at $3,000 a copy, okay, whatever the number is, $3,000 a copy, front and back, whatever. It's going to make you more. It's going to make you 3,200, 3,500, 3,600. So it's going to make you more per copy, and then it's going to increase your CSI, right? So your OEM is going to love you more, right? And then it's going to bring that customer back to your dealership to buy their next car. Why would you not, if it's a money situation, okay, which blows me away if it is, if it's a money situation, go to your ad budget, your big highfalutin ad budget. I don't even know what your fees are. Yeah. Take out whatever the fee is for an effective training program like Quantum 5, and there you go, okay? You're going to be a much happier camper at the end of the day. And you didn't change the budget $1. Yeah. Am I right? Am I crazy on that?
You're absolutely right. And most people don't embrace the fact that that when we talk about you earn more, you said your average gross profits are greater. That's been our experience too. When they're embracing, when you have a trained group of professionals that are resonating with a message and a process that the customer wants, that you're seeing. But I always tell them, on average, gross is higher. And the reason I say on average is because, there are certain situations where you're in a controlling and manipulative process where you can get more out of somebody once. And so often you'll take that one example and say, well, I made $7,000, but what have you done on the average? Right. And what we always find out, Jim, is when you average it all out, we're doing an advocacy-based message that the reason customers love it and employees love it, and why employee retention and customer retention go up in an environment like this, is because this is what they've been asking for. And guess what? When you average out the results, we show a greater output. The only difference is you're making people go through a lot more pain and suffering to achieve that same average or a little less along the way. And I always say, when it comes to the people who said to me, Tony, you're talking about sacred stuff. You're talking about the road to the sale. I mean, you and I have been taught this since the beginning of time. You got a meet and a greet and a discovery and a needs announcement. These are the things you do. And what I say, Jim, we say collectively as a company is the road to the sale is not the enemy. It's the mandating of its sequencing that's the enemy.
That's right.
The reality is we have to meet the customer where they're at in the selling process. Yeah. Will we cover all the fundamentals? Absolutely, you got it.
Sure.
There's a reason that they're there, but ultimately we've got to be flexible in how we meet consumers where they're at in the selling process.
Because for a consumer that's been online for the last 14 hours in the comfort of their home, and they want to come right in, they know the car, they know the color, they even know the stock number of the car in your inventory. They walk to it when they get to the dealership, right? And now they want to work a deal. You bring that customer all the way back to the meet and greet, and they get mad at you. Yeah. They're like, is it going to take me 2 hours to get into the negotiation? So you pick it up there if in the event the customer wants to talk then about that particular element.
Exactly. Dealers are embracing the digital experience as it relates to pre-showroom. You know what I mean? They're grabbing
Yeah.
the latest and greatest technology, so
Yeah.
they have it on their websites. I can get a trade appraisal, I can get
Yeah.
a payment,
Yeah.
I can get all these things. But as soon as I walk into my store, what consumer feedback is that it no longer reflects the experience.
They walk back to the 90s.
that I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
And you bring up a great point, as I always say, that when you look at people who have walked into your showroom today as opposed to 20 years ago, when they went from showroom to showroom, dealer to dealer, and lot from lot to test drive different cars and realize different experiences. Today they do that all online. And so I say, by the time they walk into your showroom floor, they've already picked you, Jim.
That's it.
You're it.
That's
It's
it.
just yours, not to lose.
right. Don't
and
screw it
great
up.
dealers out there with great closing ratios we're still repelling 50% of that audience because of our process.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
Wow,
really
that is fantastic. So, that's why we love having you guys in here from Quantum 5, because you tell it like it is, to kind of benchmark. Here's where the industry is. Here's where it needs to be. And I might add, the OEMs want you there, dealers. Okay. Your staff wants you there so that they feel good about working there, and they like, and it's an enjoyable sales process for both the seller, being your salesperson, and your management team, and the buyer, okay? And then, of course, the buyers want you there. So dealers, don't go kicking and screaming. Listen, if at the end of the day, how long, if they spend an hour with you on the phone or one of your people, they're going to get the whole story, right? They're going to get how it works, what the deal is involved, what's the onboarding look like, the whole deal, right?
Yes.
If you don't have 60 minutes to spend for your showroom and your sales team to learn more about Quantum 5, I got nothing for you. Don't call me. Save your emails, because this is where the rubber meets the road in this industry. I have been there as a salesperson, as a desk manager, as a dealer principal. I've been there. I'm telling you, it boils down to sales training, both in fixed ops and variable ops. You know what I'm talking about. You know in your heart of hearts, I'm right about this. Spend 60 minutes, call Quantify. We're going to show all the information on the screen here. So thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us
I
again,
love our
Jim.
discussion. Sorry if we got too heated, but it's because we're passionate about it, right?
Amen.
So thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.